Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the podcast where we chat with pro wrestling's biggest names and hottest names, talking to them about their careers inside and outside the ring, as well as talking about their work out in the community, doing acts of community service and charity work. And with me today is the son of the legendary handsome Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Boogie Boy. He is a former Southern Heavyweight Champion, former Tag Team Champion, the one and only Gary Valiant. How are you doing tonight?
Good, sir. How are you doing?
Good. It's a pleasure having you on, speaking with you. And I want to talk with you about your upbringing. Where did you grow up?
Nashville, Tennessee.
So you're from Nashville?
Yes, sir.
Music City, okay.
Yes, sir.
So Nashville, it's been a hotbed for wrestling for years. The Tennessee territory is just a chock full of history, a who's who of names that have come through the area. Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, Sting, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, just to name a few of the people. Tell me a little bit about...
The Undertaker came through here.
Yes, yep. Yeah. Yes, he did.
The Undertaker was actually was married to a young lady right out of West Nashville from Hillwood High School.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
No doubt. No kidding. Wow. That's awesome fact right there. For those of you who've followed wrestling for a long, long time, pretty awesome connection there. So Nashville, Tennessee, you grew up in Nashville. What can you tell me about some of your earliest memories growing up as a wrestling fan?
Well, my dad was always on the road, so I was always, wanting to be, whatever he wanted to do, I wanted to be there. And the fairgrounds in Nashville, every time he was here, I would always go. And so it was, I thought I was, everybody looked at him as a superstar, but I looked at him as my dad, So, I didn't think nothing about it, but it was like the older I got, the more I wanted to do it because I could see everybody wanting to be around them and wanting autographs, wanting to hang out with them. And so it was like, man, this is really cool. But when I got into it, it was like, I didn't realize how much hard work it was.
No doubt. Mm-hmm.
But it was, I seen things, that was going on that I didn't want to do. And that was what scared me the most. But, I've stuck to my guns. I've stayed loyal. I'm 51 years old now. I've never drank, never smoked, never partied. So I believe that, I believe it helped what I've seen in the past. It helped me to become who I am today. So
that never say die attitude surely helped you to where you are now. And so you got your start in 1990, getting trained by your dad as well as Bill Dundee. Tell me about the training process. Do you feel it was difficult?
Well,
easy?
I was trained with Bill in Nashville because my dad already left to go to Crockett. So Bill trained me at the Nashville Fairgrounds, and I trained for like 6 months. He ran the dog out of me, and I don't think training these days are as hard as it was back then because when I got in, it was like being in the mafia. And
sure.
All jokes aside, but it wasn't what you knew, it was who you knew. And that was the only way you was going to get in the business. And when Bill got finished training me, he didn't want me to depend on him. So he says, okay, you go out and you do your thing and see if you can do it on your own. And all in much respect for that because he didn't just hand it to me because who I was. So after I got trained by Bill, my stepbrother and I started training at Kenny Devine's gym in Green Hills with a Japanese guy named Senji. we was going to train for it was called UWFI. It was I think I got I think I had a videotape around here somewhere, but it was like a shoot amateur type shoot fighting in Japan, and we trained there for 6 months. And when it was time for us to go fight in Japan, my ex-wife at the time was pregnant with my first child. Well, she was having complications, so I told my stepbrother, "So we're going to go and go over and fight, and I'll go on the next trip." Well, by the time the next trip came around, um, guys like Barry Horowitz and Ben Jordan and Reno Riggins was calling me, and Jeff Jarrett threw a good word in for me and said, "Hey, would you like to do some work with the WWF?" And I go, "Holy crap, yes!" At that age, who didn't want to do it? I
No,
wasn't worried
biggest
about
promotion in the world.
right, and I wasn't worried about the money because I was 20 something years old. I was just wanting to be on
Yeah,
TV.
yeah.
But I got lucky enough to get to wrestle for there for 10 years. And, I was
Wow.
paying my dues. And, but I got to pay my dues with people that knew what they were doing, like the Bret
Sure.
Harts, the Owen Harts, the guys that's been there and done that. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I was on top of the world.
Oh,
But
sure.
I didn't want to use my dad's name, so I used my stepbrother's name. I went as Gary Scott, and you can look me up. And I was there from probably 92 to 1999.
Oh, wow.
But I was, I got Robert Roode was there. The Hardy Boys were there before. Who else was? AJ Styles came in, and at the time, all of us was paying our dues. Even Scotty Too Hotty was there, Scott Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody that was there the same time I was actually made it. So and then after I left there, I went to work for NWA. I got to wrestle Adam Pearce for the NWA World Title. I got to wrestle Phil Shatter for the NWA National Title. So yeah, I just worked my tail off and just kept working and kept working. And I didn't want to be my dad. I didn't want to be him. I just wanted to be half as good as him. And that's why I didn't want to go out and drink. That's why I didn't want to go out and party, because I didn't want to go and destroy everything he worked for. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you often hear a lot of times about wrestlers who go on to have kids of their own, like second generation stars, third generation stars, and they're making it in the business. They're huge, and so it's kind of rare to see somebody going in a different direction with their life compared to their dad.
Right.
And so you had mentioned you went to Japan. Tell me about the differences between wrestling here in the States versus going overseas.
Well, in Japan, it was more real. I think that's how Dana White became so big in the States, because in the 90s, wrestling in Japan was like NFL football here. That's what it was. It was the biggest thing ever. And I think people in the States go, "My word, look at the money they're making." And I think that's where they got the idea to bring UFC, because if you noticed, UFC had to go through a bunch of loopholes to get regulated. And
Sure.
every state had a different rule and different rules and regulations, and had athletic commissions here and there to get through, to go through the red tape. But I think Japan is what made UFC as big as it is today.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you see the mixed martial arts world being heavily influenced in today's pro wrestling. Like, look at Brock Lesnar. I
Right.
mean, he's a crossover star in both worlds now with his mixed martial arts training and going back to pro wrestling where he started his career. Obviously, of course, he was an amateur wrestler before that, and just to see the star he became, and Ronda Rousey as well. I mean, people kind of going back and forth. I mean, that's had to have had an influence on the product.
Right. And I think in a way that's actually elevated everybody, because people go, well, where did Brock come from? Well, when they said UFC, well, they're going to go back and watch UFC just to see how tough Brock really was.
Yeah.
And just like Ronda Rousey. So I think it all worked out better for everybody, long term.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's helped introduce pro wrestling to newer audiences with the MMA influence?
I think so because Vince McMahon was smart because he got everybody involved. He got the boxing world involved. He got MMA involved. So he got what he done is he just like when he started WWF back in the day, he went to every territory and got each and every big star there because he knew if he got the big stars, they would watch. Well, he knew if he went and got a Mike Tyson, if he went and got a Ronda Rousey, well, it would draw more people there to watch.
Correct.
And you're correct. It made the whole world watch because it made people interested in what was going to happen next.
Definitely, and it's become the spectacle that it is. So you got your training, and you obviously started your career in Memphis.
Right.
So tell me your memories of the Memphis territory.
Well, it was kind of funny because the first time I ever went to Memphis TV, and you can look this up, I went with Ben Jordan, and I was just standing in the back, just watching, on the Channel 5, and Jeff Jarrett Steady comes up, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just, checking out, watching, hanging out." He goes, "No, you're going to go to work." So he throws him in this orange jumpsuit. Man, a guy named Rockin' Randy. And he throws us these orange jumpsuits, and it calls us the Goon Squads. And if you can go and watch it on Memphis TV.
Okay.
And we wrestled, I want to say, TD Steele and Ben Jordan. And once we done the TV deal, we worked the whole loop and worked Jeff Jarrett and Robert Fuller when they was the tag team champions for almost a month. We Memphis, Louisville, Evansville, Jonesboro, wherever else on Friday nights, back to Memphis TV on Saturday mornings. But it worked out really well because Jeff got to work with me, and Jeff's helped me out tremendously.
Yeah.
When Jeff first signed with the WWF, Jeff gave me all of his tights, every one of them that he was wearing in Memphis, because he had to change his whole gimmick. And Jill, his ex-wife, the one that passed away, she made them for him. And I'm talking about somebody like Jeff Jarrett giving you something like that, that meant the world to me. And I have almost respect for that guy. But then, me working for Memphis and working the loop for Memphis got me booked to work for Global out of Dallas, Texas. When Memphis and Global was working together, you remember when Memphis went in and I think purchased the Texas territory.
Yeah, they had like a what was it? They combined the two promotions. They merged the two for a while.
Yeah, and then after that, I think there's somebody that came in and wanted to try to start a new company called Global Wrestling Federation, and they had Eddie Gilbert as the booker.
Yep.
I think that's where Booker T and Stevie Ray started as Ed.
Yep. Harlem
Experience.
Heat. Yep.
And then that's where Steve Austin started as Steve Williams, because he was tagging up with a guy named Ron Price. And then after the Global, that's where I first met the Lightning Kid, now X-Pac, and Jerry Lynn, one of the greatest lightweights that probably ever walked the earth. But it got me elevated to work for Smoky Mountain Wrestling for Jim Cornette. So I went out and I paid my dues, but I wanted to pay my dues the right way.
Also, you work for the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, and you mentioned earlier that you got to wrestle Adam Pearce for the
Right.
title.
And that's when he was on the top of his game. And no matter if I won or lost, he done a radio interview like 2 days later, and what he said about me, it didn't matter if I won the belt or not, because the kind words he said about me afterwards, it blew me away, because he said that he thought I was one of the best sellers that he ever worked. And coming from Adam Pearce, that meant a whole lot, and that was something he didn't have to say, but here we go again. Adam Pearce is a true professional. So he's going to, even though if he's a champ or not, he still is going to put somebody else over. And I thought that was really, to me, I thought that was really cool.
You've done some humanitarian work of your own too. You've worked for different, done some charity work outside the ring, community service. Tell me about some of the stuff that you've done.
Yes, me and my lady that I'm with now, we try to go every Thanksgiving or Christmas, just whenever ones it's not filled up. We go to a place called the National Mission downtown, and we hand out food for the homeless. So that really is, until you see how the people live, you can't really put it to words. But I just feel that if God can bow down and wash people's feet, why can't we?
Sure.
Who are we to judge somebody else? And I think the biggest eye opener was when my son and I, my oldest child, we went to Dominican Republic for a missions trip, and we was there for 7 days. And for like 3 days, we worked on a church, but it wasn't just working on a church. We was laying the brick. But what people don't realize is it was no concrete mixers there. It was, we had to mix the rock and the sand, mix it together, by hand. We had to get the water out of the well to mix it. We had, wasn't no scaffold. We had to stand on a brick and put another brick up.
Oh, wow.
And then we went and we visited their school, but didn't realize that they go to school at night because it's a whole lot cooler, because they don't have air conditioning. And then we went down to a place called the Black Hole. It is like a big hollow that you walk down. And they tell these people there, they says, well, if you can build it, you can live there. Well, it's like 10 walls, metal walls, whatever, just whatever they can find to build, and dirt floors. And, you could watch this stuff on TV all the time, but until you're there and you see it and smell the rumble and see how people live, you have kids laying in the middle of the yard or the middle of the field with pigs and cows, and we went. They had a little feeding center down there that the church went and fed the kids, and my son went and gave one of the kids it was like a plastic plate, but there was different colors, and the kid told my son, he says, no, they're wrong color. So my son went back to the pastor and he says, hey, why is he telling me the wrong color of the plate? And the pastor told him, he says, we have to feed the healthier kids first to keep them healthier, because the ones that's not so healthy are going to be passing away anyway. So that is what really breaks your heart.
Yeah, definitely.
Is because these little ones don't have long to live, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's when you realize, no matter what your life is going on, no matter what in the world you have going on in your life, until you live in somebody else's world, then tell me how bad your life really is.
Yeah, I mean, they say like you never know what somebody else is going through.
Right,
You kind of have to count your blessings
right.
and be grateful
And
for what you have.
and and to this day, I still have pictures of my son and I going over there because I want to go back and reflect on, when I have a bad day, I go, you know what? It can't be no worse than what they're going through. But what really surprised me is each and every one of them kids over there, every one of them had a smile on their face because they don't know what our world is like. They don't know what somebody else is living. All they know is the way they're living. And every one of them had a smile on their face, and that's just it, to me. That's amazing, and that shows me that God works in mysterious ways
Oh,
because
absolutely.
He's still taking care of them.
Sure. So I guess it's fair to say that that was your most memorable uh, experience helping someone.
Yes, and and, and I think it opened up my son's eyes.
Sure.
As far as because it's these kids these days want. Well, they don't think about wanting a $500 PlayStation game. Well, guess what? Them kids over there are playing baseball with a broomstick and a Gatorade top. You know, and that's when you go, this is this the way you want to live? And I bring that up all the time to different kids
Hmm.
because the kids these days do not see the morals or see what really what the meaning of needing something is really like.
Sure. Sure.
So
Well, listen, Gary, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on the show. It means a lot to me, and I'd love to have you on again soon.
thank you so much, and it's really such an honor and a true blessing to be able to talk to you. I'm sorry if I talked your head off, and
No,
but
no, no.
but
It's
I
this is great.
but I really appreciate everything that you do, and I appreciate you having you getting the word out there, and I wish there was more people out there like you that to push the word. And God bless you, my friend, and you're more than welcome. No matter what it is, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to get hold of me.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And thank you, sir.
Take care. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.